you can all hear me, I am going to be reading in English the speech Tally wrote as she grieved for her sisters Rina and Maia at the Levaya. Rina, my wonderful sister. Rina, you wanted a good picture to post just in case a situation like this one was to happen. But no picture is nearly good enough to express who you are, Rina. We could look at each other and immediately know what the other was thinking. We had our own telepathy. Right now, you know what I'm thinking, and I only hope I have the strength to know what you are thinking. I see you constantly. Last year, we removed the wall between our rooms so we could be really together. You were always there for everyone, and the family was always so important to you. You'd leave notes for us and Mummy and Daddy in all kinds of places. We'd chat for hours and talk about anything in the world. It was so good you'd come to talk to me about Ezra, your youth camp, being a counsellor in Ezra, the army, and all your plans for the future. Lately, our bond had become even stronger, and I wish I could talk to you more. It was so good for me to talk to you and hear of all your insights and how you'd see the world in such a special way. In recent learning sessions about the Seder, you said so many clever things, and I'd always learned so much from you. A sentence that really characterized you was, "If I am not for myself, who will be?" You'd always take responsibility for things, whether it was the new youth Ezra camp, where you'd always offer our house for staff activities because you and Ezra don't yet have a building, or how you'd always care for the girls who didn't have someone to talk to or meet up with. You'd always see the kids standing on the side and find a way to get them involved. You'd offer to help long before anyone even asked. You'd always stay behind to help clean up. And you'd be the last to leave Ezra because that's just how you were. Even when you were having a hard time, you never gave up. You were the first to get to Ezra Youth Camp to help out for Shabbat, and you were there up until the last second before Shabbat. You got this quickness from our mummy. You'd always say that the heart follows the actions, and you were a person of action. You were always doing. You had such strong values, and you lived by them. You were a vegetarian because you believed in it, and you'd always explain to people why you were a vegetarian. You knew that if we wanted to solve the climate crisis, you had to do your part. You believed in farming the land, so you'd volunteer or you'd go to sleep in some farm and wake up early in the morning to help that farmer. You also didn't want to bother our parents, so you'd hitchhike and take buses to get home right just before Shabbat, in time to have a bath or shower, wash your hair and light the candle. A wise person listens twice. You'd always say that and explain that if you listen well the first time, you already know it's when it's said the second time. You had the wisdom of the heart and the wisdom of the mind. You always understood people and their needs, and you were never condescending about it. Everyone felt comfortable talking to you. You have so many friends from so many different places and social circles, and you were the bridge between all of them. With your strong mental prowess, you were very successful in school, and it all came to you easily, and you always say the cleverest things in class. You really wanted to invent something that could help solve the environmental crisis. You wanted to get a degree and be in Talpiot in the army. You wanted to help everyone with your ideas. Rina, I know how much you hated blood, just like Daddy. With your wonderful mind, I always told her to be a doctor and invent all kinds of medicines, but she wouldn't go near blood. She doesn't like blood one bit. I can't imagine what those moments were like for you, my princess. I'll always be here for you. As your sister, I was supposed to protect you from everything, but I couldn't. I would have taken every single one of those bullets for you instead of you, but I couldn't. But I can't. So now I need you to protect me and be there for me. I know what we're losing, and everyone who knows you, what I'm talking about, so everyone here knows, or will know, that the world is losing so much. Try to be strong and good like her. Rina, you always said you wanted to be more like me. No, I want to be more like you. Everyone needs to be like you. That way, the Geula will come. Rina, you will always be my best friend. I love you more than anything in the world. These are the words 17-year-old Tali wrote about her big sister, Maia, age 20. Yesterday was Rina's 16th birthday. My beautiful Maia, you're my oldest sister, and knowingly or unknowingly, I've always followed in your footsteps. Whether it was going to the Neve Chana, choosing Oshri as my driving instructor, or going to Lod next year. Lod is a girls' seminary in the town of Lod. The way you talk about places and your experiences in such a bright manner and with so much excitement, how could I not want to go to Lod? You're my second half. Karen and Rina, me and you, are similar both in looks and personality, although we never admitted it. We painted our nails the same colour last Tuesday and talked about life and friends. You were able to describe their exact personalities just from my stories, without ever having met them. You'd always laugh when I told stories. And with all the excitement, we even bought the same dress for the festivals, and we fought over who'd get to wear it first. And the second dress we went to buy together in town. It was always so important to you to listen to everyone and you'd ask me about my day. You'd call me from Yerushalayim, where Maia was doing the first year of her national service in a school. You'd call me from Yerushalayim, where you were working, and always take an interest in my life. You'd work so hard for your friends and organize the house before they came. You'd even make desserts specially for them. Once, you had 2 hours free between meeting up with friends. I told you to go and rest, but you went and called another friend to meet up because you wanted to see everyone. Maia, you put your all into everything, in all categories. You'd work hard in school and never let yourself give in. You invested in your driving skills, and I'd hear lectures about you, even from my driving instructor. You worked so hard in Yerushalayim with the private lessons you'd give to the students who were struggling, and with their Torah studies, and give them snacks which you organised all by yourself. You were keen on the Torah. You chose to study for a year in Midrasha, and oh, how you loved the classes. You spread this Torah at our Shabbat table and to the students at Yerushalayim. The Torah really lit you up. You even learned Daf Yomi with Daddy, and you were just so clever. You knew how to say everything in a good and precise manner. This exactness characterized you. You were a perfectionist when it came to anything. You made sure things would be exactly how you wanted them to be, whether it was your beliefs, keeping the house clean, or your room. Everything was exactly how you wanted it to be. After all the big things, you were just a funny person. You told stories in funny ways, and you had funny outbursts. When I close my eyes, I see a massive smile, laughing, sometimes with water spraying out of your mouth and your nose too. You were super honest and full of confidence. You weren't embarrassed to say your truths, and thanks to you, I could always trust you and get your advice. Maia, you always spoke to me as an equal, and I'll always walk on your path, and you will guide me from above. Now that I don't have you, I have no one to show me what to do. I don't have anyone to gossip with about the classes in Lod. I don't have someone to laugh with, and I can't shove in any more jokes about getting married and a boyfriend. And I don't have anyone to give me advice about boys. And I don't have your laughter. I don't have your curls. I don't have your determination. I don't have you. You're strong. The strongest there is, you got it from our mummy. I never saw you cry. You knew how to cope. You knew how to always watch over Rina for us. And Rina, please watch over Maia now. I want to apologise, but that's pointless because we're sisters. So no matter what, I know you love me, and I love you no matter what. That's how family is. My friend Orit once talked about a person worthy of admiring. You both, Maia and Rina, are worth admiring. The world has lost two incredible souls. We'll go home, and nothing will be the same without you. The bond between sisters is the strongest lasting bond there is. And even though I was only granted 17 years with you, Maia, and 15 years with you, Rina, you will always be with me, on my shoulders, guiding me for the rest of my life. If everyone could take a little piece of them and put to practice in the world, the Geula will come the fastest possible. Rina, you'd want us to unite as a nation, that we'd be there for each other for support, and that we'll always take initiative and responsibility and be active people who do good. Maia, you'd want us to always laugh and be happy, that we'd always hug each other, that we'd be strong and committed, and that we'd put our all into everything we do. Thank you, Maia and Rina. Thank you for protecting Mummy for us, and sorry we couldn't be there instead. Rina and Maia love leftists and secular Jews, and they really loved a good argument with people of different opinions, but to also agree with each other and find similarities between all of us under one goal. I don't know what God wants from us, and it'll take time to recover, but we all need to pray for Mummy, the strongest and most beautiful woman I know. People always say we're like identical drops of water. If only Mummy, if only I be like you. I wear your engagement ring now on my finger. I'm protecting it. I was asked by Leo to design and make Lucianne's engagement ring, which is the link. She never took it off from the time she was engaged until the day of her death, when it was removed and put on Tally's finger. Please don't let them die for nothing. Please don't just go back to your daily lives after the Shiva. Take Rina and Maia as your inspiration to be better, otherwise their death was worth nothing. Don't do that. We need to believe and pray for miracles and break down the gates of heaven until the temple is built and the dead return to life, so that I can see you again. Thank you, Hashem, for leaving me, Daddy, Karen, and my Yehuda.
Rebbitzin, rabbis, family, and friends, some of you will have heard me speak at Lucianne's Lavoya. Now that we are in a more private setting, I would like to share some of my memories of my big sister, Lucianne, and my nieces, Maia and Rina. Having a sibling is a very special thing, but Lucianne was more than a sister. She was like a mother to my twin sister, Steph, and me from the time that we were born until last week. I realised as I grew up that not many big sisters would want their little sisters cramping their style. But for Lucianne, it was the opposite. She loved having us around, and she did a huge amount for us, from changing our nappies to keeping us occupied, and also trying to shield us from anything difficult in our lives. Growing up in a world without Netflix, she was brilliant at inventing activities for Steph and me to do on rainy days. She planned and ran our birthday parties, where she introduced games like the chocolate game that we loved, and walked us to our local school that she had also attended, Henrietta Barnett. Steph and I felt sad when Lucienne left home to go to university, but she didn't forget about us. She ensured that we came to stay with her for multiple Shabbats in Oxford and even included our best friends. Her course included a year in Japan, and she wrote letters home that explained that she was still managing to keep Shabbat and kosher, which was no easy feat. We knew as soon as she introduced us to Leo that she had met someone very special. Not many people could beat a pair of twins at articulate, given that we can even guess each other's wrong answers, but Luce and Leo could do it. She and Leo travelled the world together after getting married, before deciding to settle in Israel. My friends remember that she wasn't like any other big sister. As one friend said at the Shiva, religious women didn't just travel around the world like that. As many of you will know, Luce and Leo were members of the communities of Norris Lea, St John's Wood and Hendon. After having Maia and Karen in England, they moved to Israel, where they studied to be a rabbi and rebbitzin and had Tali and Rina. They then returned to London, as it was important to practice being a rabbi and rebbitzin outside of Israel, and had Yehuda in Radlett. They made Aliyah again in 2014, moving back to the wonderful community of Efrat, and had been living there ever since. Despite making Aliyah, Lucienne became my best friend alongside my husband. A few people have said that they were surprised at how close we were, given that she lived in Israel. I hadn't really thought of the distance as an impediment. We just made sure that we kept each other updated about everything, as we couldn't rely on seeing one another. Lucienne came to London most recently in February for our cousin Blake's bar mitzvah and to catch up with our family. She ensured that Friday was our special day together, just the two of us, and I'm so grateful that we had that very special time. My husband Mike and our boys Nathan and Samuel adored Lucienne. Our boys used to scamper up the stairs to Lucienne's room on the top floor, snuggle into bed with her, and despite the fact that it would be 6 a.m, she would read them story after story. She loved joining us and Steph and Seth for the school run. Our boys wanted us to go to Israel to help Auntie Lucienne to get better. And we finally explained to them yesterday that, because she was so special, she is now with Hashem. A final memory that I have of Lucienne is singing her favourite lullaby, Hamalach HaGoel, that she used to sing to her children every night when they were little, with Karen, Yehuda and Tali by her bedside at the Hadassah Hospital. One of my dad, Richard's favourite memories is of Lucienne, who was physically very strong, joining him sailing in rough seas in the Solent, and walking with him, uncomplainingly, on unrelenting moors in the Lake District. Like my parents, she loved hiking, gardening, her garden in Efrat was beautiful, and cooking. And my parents have many fond memories of doing those activities with her. My mum, Veronica, recalls taking Luce out for sushi at restaurants in Jerusalem, inspired by her stay in Japan. Lucienne nurtured our Jewish faith. A wonderful woman, Hani Rutman, came to the Shiva in Efrat. She explained that, as we were not a very religious family, Luce's journey first started when her mum, Linda, taught Lucienne. Linda saw that Luce had a passion for Judaism that couldn't be fully fulfilled by her regular Jewish studies lessons, and was soon giving her private lessons. Lucienne lapped up all of the teachings, and as she grew, she supplemented her learning in very many ways, including by studying with its esteemed rebbitzin, such as Rebbitzin Binstock. Lucienne was a fantastic role model. As well as Judaism, she, together with Leo, dedicated her life to teaching, charity, thinking of others and learning, turning away from a lifestyle of materialism. She never tried to impress people or was embarrassed by her faith. She was always happy being her authentic self and wore her sparkling headscarves with pride. She taught English to the children who needed her help the most, and had most recently started mentoring those who also wanted to teach. She also taught Judaism in many ways, including via shiurim. She assisted Israeli soldiers, cooked for bereaved families, helped mothers who had just given birth, and much, much more. Lucienne was a phenomenal mother. She gave her children constant and unconditional love and never compared them to one another. As a result of Luce and Leo, their children have grown up to be the most wonderful, selfless people. Maia was Lucienne's eldest daughter and the first sure grandchild. When Maia was little, she loved the colour pink and anything girly that we gave her, especially jewellery and hair accessories. As Maia grew up, she became particularly thoughtful and considerate. She had a gorgeous smile and was a lot of fun to be around. She loved reading and getting fashion advice from Steph and me, albeit that dwindled as we got older. She was a perfectionist. She had just remodelled her room beautifully and always kept it neat. She volunteered every week at Ezra, a Jewish youth group. She was also instrumental in running a youth group for children with special needs. After finishing school, she thrived whilst attending a midrasha in Lod, and then chose to spend her national service helping children at risk in Yerucham. She was looking forward to starting a new role in Jerusalem later this year. She had chosen that location so that she could be closer to her family. Above all, she was a fantastic big sister. She was a role model and also best friend to her younger siblings. Just one example is that she would attend a full day of work but still make time to check in with the Huda at 2 a.m. Rina's 16th birthday was yesterday. It sounds like a cliche, but she literally was a ray of sunshine in all of our lives. Rina was vivacious, kind, and had a great sense of humour. She was passionate about nature and doing projects to look after the environment. She was a free spirit, a vegetarian, loved walking and camping, and volunteered for farmers doing things like picking fruit. She also volunteered at Ezra, where she doubled the number of her Hanukkim. She played a large part in building a new youth centre so that the Hanukkim would have somewhere to meet. Being bright and ambitious, she planned to be in Talpiot in the army when her time came. Rina had a huge number of friends from different strands of her life, and she would bring them together easily. She used to call my parents every single week before Shabbat and tell them what she'd been up to ensure that they stayed in the loop. My dad said that she was his weekly ray of sunshine. Her uncle Jeremy remembers the thought-provoking and endless questions that she would ask about things like his career. She would crawl into bed with Karen in the early hours of the morning, tell her all about her day, and then leave Karen to go back to sleep again. Maia and Rina both loved hearing about other people in a way that was selfless for their ages. We were privileged to hear the girls' friends share countless memories at the Shiva in Efrat. They also loved hanging out with all of their cousins, and were really looking forward to spending time with the Kuhlman family in the north of Israel this Pesach. Leo inspired us to look at what we do have rather than what we have lost. I am incredibly grateful to have had Lucian, Maia and Rina in our lives, and for the family that we do have left, particularly Leo, Karen, Tali and Yehuda. We are also grateful for the fact that 5 people were able to be saved by the donation of Lucian's organs. Her lungs, kidneys and heart, and her corneas are also going to be donated. The decision to donate was a difficult one, not least because it had to be made just after the doctor had explained that the time had come to say goodbye, and because the organs would be given to whoever needed them most, even if that was a relative of the terrorist who had been responsible for the attack. But Leo, Karen, Tali and Yehuda made the decision easily. The Hadassah Hospital explained that relatively few people in Israel donate organs, only around 110 people each year, and so this donation has made a real difference. It was an unusual situation. Lucy's organs were functioning well due to the nature of her injuries. After approval was given, there were no anaesthetists in the maternity ward because so many had been diverted to carry out the various transplant operations. 2 of the top surgeons in Israel had been driving by, also on their way to stay in the north for the Pesach holiday, and so managed to keep Lucy's airways functioning until more help arrived. After hearing that she had passed away, they thought that they had failed. However, I think that they had been sent by Hashem to save the people who received her organs. The mother of the lady who received Lucy's heart came to the Shiva in Efrat yesterday. She had been waiting for a long time for a heart donation and had just been given 2 weeks to live. She explained that it was a miracle that Lucy's heart was donated just in time. I would like to finish by saying a huge thank you to everyone, both here and abroad, although huge does not seem big enough. Just a few examples are the people who were able to fly out to Israel, including the 3 rabbis from the UK and more from the USA who flew out to attend the Shiva just for a few hours, the wonderful women who ran the Shiva in Efrat and cooked an abundance of food, and of course our amazing community who made meals for us and checked on our kids back here in London. I will never forget the sight of countless Israelis waving flags and singing, lining the streets to provide comfort on the way to both Lavoyas. Nothing can fill the hole that we have in our lives. But Lucienne was very strong and has passed that on to her family, and we are trying to draw on that strength now. And seeing the sheer numbers of people who love Lucienne, Maia and Rina, and who are here for our family, and who feel our pain, helps.
Why are we at this particular shul? This was Lucien's shul, it was our family shul, it was my father's shul and mine. Friday afternoons, even in the snow, as Lucienne and her brother Benjamin, they were not born, we would walk here. She started her Hebrew education here, went to Keren school, Hebrew classes, and continued on from there. When she had her Bat Heil, she was just down there with Sarah Jackson and 3 other girls who are here today. It feels like home. There are so many smiling and familiar faces. And that is all I've got to say, because the terrorists cannot win. We have the next generation. Benjamin took the service as usual beautifully. And basically everything has been done by the younger generation, not by us. All I would lastly say is if you go to page 205 of the Sefer HaShiva, you will see that the prayer in this relatively recently published book is credited to Lucy Dee, Living Our Judaism. There's nothing more to say. She will live on, and we will live on, and we will be happy. We are a happy family, and we love our Judaism. Thank you, Norris Lea. Thank you, everybody.
Just to say a few words as well. Lucienne's auntie, Lady Young, please.
I seem to be the matriarch of the family, and so I thought I might give some advice. To see my baby brother sitting Shiva with Benjamin, Gabrielle, Stephanie and Veronica is heartbreaking, and nothing I say will alleviate your pain. You have to grieve, and the way you grieve is up to you. It's always the right way. But you must also look ahead. Look at the way Leo is behaving with love and forgiveness is quite amazing. Remember all the wonderful times together. Family is so important, and memories are important, never to be forgotten. But you must now look forward. You have a new member of the family coming very soon, and that will be amazing. And while you grieve, time will heal, but always remember 3 wonderful women, Lucienne, Maia and Rina. I wish you all a long life, free from any more sorrow. I love you all.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I want to take Lisa's words a little bit further, but before I do, I want to add to what my father says and Gabriel said about showing some of the outpouring of emotion and gratitude and empathy that we've had from people all over Israel. And in the Shiva house, there were, we reckon, around 1,000 people a day coming through. Large numbers of whom, very large numbers of whom, didn't know the family at all and just wanted to show empathy and the fact that they shared our pain, and they came from all walks of life. We had some Arab Israelis, we had obviously lots of people from Efrat, some Haredi Jews, which is unusual to get such religious Jews coming to a modern Jewish settlement, and some irreligious Israelis coming from Tel Aviv and northern Israel and southern Israel. I mean, some people have driven 3 or 4 hours just to spend 5-10 minutes with us. Another thing that was amazing was the outpouring of love from the Efrat community that Gabrielle's already spoken about, and from other communities around. When we went to synagogue on Friday night, on every seat there were these, which are sweets, which had been handmade with hand-written notes from another community. I think this one's from Neve Daniel, which was about 10 kilometres away. And then outside the synagogue, when we finished the service, there were large trestle tables, and each of them were full of cakes like this, with handwritten notes on them from another community who wanted every family in the synagogue to take home a cake for Shabbat, and with words to express that they could feel our pain. And then dropped through the door on Friday afternoon were bars of chocolate with another note from a third community down in the Hula Valley, who had sent somebody round to drop these chocolates into every house within a couple of blocks radius of Leo's house. I think the other thing I wanted to say is it's a terrible tragedy, but one of the things Leo has made us realise is you can't just dwell on the past. As Lita said, you've got to look forward, and there are 3 lives, unfortunately, that have passed away, but Leo has kind of set 3 big goals that he wanted to achieve, and I think to a certain extent they are being achieved, that are going to leave a lasting memory of these 3 beautiful people. Number 1 is the organ donation. So it's quite unusual, as you've heard, for organ donations to be given in Israel, largely because the religious community have these dilemmas as to what it says in the Torah about giving organs. And what Leo did, and one of the reasons the funeral was a little bit later than it should have been, is he spent the time to get all the most senior rabbinical authorities to approve the donation, so that a message can go out to the religious community in Israel that organ donation is something that they should all allow when it's required. The second item was, as we all know, there's been a bit of disunity in Israel recently. You've seen on the news I don't think of the French word, manifestation. Demonstrations, that's it, going on, and we've even seen a couple in London. When all of the Israeli politicians, and we have had a large number of Israeli politicians coming to the Shiva, including on the first day the President of Israel, the former and the current defence ministers, the Interior Minister, Mr. Netanyahu came yesterday. We have been expressing to all of them the fact that there should be unity within Israeli politics. That's the best way to keep Israel in existence. And Leo also started this Dee's Day, where he asked people to post a picture of themselves with the Israeli flag. And the great thing about this was this did unite Israel. And we heard from somebody this afternoon who, yet again from the Haredi community, we knew that the Haredi community had participated because the 2 largest influencers in the Haredi community in Israel, who don't really recognise the state of Israel and wouldn't normally put a flag, be associated with the Israeli flag, all participated in this Dee's Day, posting a picture of themselves with an Israeli flag, and this lady showed me basically all of their friends had changed their statuses and put the Israeli flag on. And it's bringing, this tragedy is bringing Israel together, which is fantastic. And the third element is that the British government, largely because of Leo having a tirade against the embassy's official who called him and asked him if he needed help, the initial communique from the British government was extremely poor. I'll read out Melanie Phillips's response, which says, the initial response of the UK government was shocking. As Israel's former ambassador to the US, Michael Oren, tweeted in disgust, the British government was saddened to hear about the deaths of British Israeli citizens and the serious injuries sustained by a third individual, and called on all parties to de-escalate tensions. No mention of Palestinians, or terror, no outrage. The sisters merely died, and a third person was somehow injured. The citizens are not really British, but are qualified British Israelis, and all parties, including the Israeli victims, are urged to de-escalate. Shame on Britain. Well, Leo took this when they called him and asked him if the British consul's assistant asked if he needed any help, and he said, I think the British government's response has been disgraceful, and if you don't change and reissue a much stronger letter, I'm going to speak to Sky News, who I've got an interview with tomorrow morning, and out Britain for its disgraceful attitude. And he then went on for a couple of minutes to explain what he expected to be in the letter. And I'm sure you've now seen the letter that's been widely circulated, that when we're sitting around discussing it, I said to Leo, look, it looks a little bit like the Balfour Declaration, that you've got the Foreign Office logo at the top, a few paragraphs of text, a signature at the bottom. And so we decided to try and coin it as the Cleverly Declaration, because it has gone further than the British government has gone before in saying that all terror, there can be no justification for such senseless and abhorrent violence, and I unequivocally condemn this act of terrorism, amongst other things. So it's gone further than the UK government goes normally, and we want to try and make the most out of this. And in fact, today we were delighted that because Mr. Cleverly is in Japan, the next minister down, which is Lord Ahmed, came to the Shiva House, was photographed with the media, with all of us, where we publicly thanked him for the British government's moral leadership in making this stance, and urged him and the media to continue doing this. And we all want to try and keep this attitude as long as possible, because the best way to combat terror is for the terrorists to know that in no circumstances can terrorism ever be acceptable. Unfortunately, the media doesn't always see it that way. They kind of portray the Israelis who are victims of terror as partly responsible for their own predicaments. Well, that can never be true. And the British government has come out effectively and said that no terrorism is acceptable wherever it is. And let's hope eventually the message gets through to terrorists that terrorism never works, and that could well be the best way to solve this process. So let us not, whilst this is a sad, very sad occasion, there is also optimism. And let's go away from this with a sense of optimism that this tragic event will lead to the world becoming a better place. Can I suggest we conclude with... Yeah, oh,
Truthfully, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I was just reflecting to myself actually that usually we attend the Shiva service to give comfort and chizuk, strength to the mourners. It appears throughout this Shiva period, the mourners are giving us strength, chizuk and comfort, which goes a long way to say something about the family and about what was lost and who was lost. But I don't want my words to be the last words of the evening. I think they should be Lucy's. And Richard, you said, you drew everyone's attention, which someone told me this morning, that on page 205 are Lucy's words. These are Lucy's words on her reflections that would be, or could be said at a Shiva service. So let's learn a Mishnah together. A Mishnah, an ancient teaching with the Hebrew letters Mishnah, is the same letters as the Hebrew word for neshama, for soul. So it is quite traditional to learn a Mishnah, a teaching, in honor of a soul, in honor of three precious souls. So Lucy chose this. So let us learn something from this. Rabbi Yossi Omer, says the great tonight sage Rabbi Yossi, Yihi mamon chavarecha chaviv alecha keshalach. That the property or the money of your fellow, of a friend, of someone you may or may not know, be as precious to you as your own. Vaskein atzmacha lilmod Torah she'eino yerushalach. Prepare yourself to study Torah, its laws, its traditions, for it does not come to you as inheritance. V'chol ma'asecha Shem Shemai. And all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. You said that Leo wanted to take three things away, three messages. Here are three separate teachings. The first is, let the property of your fellow, your friend, be as precious to you as your own. Reminding us of that famous teaching where you should love yourself like your neighbor, you should love others, everyone, just as you love yourself. And this extends that. It's not just good enough to love people. You've got to love everything about them. You have to celebrate their successes and comfort them when they grieve or in their loss. Prepare yourself for Torah study. It's not an inheritance, says this teaching. Well, Torah, our traditions, are inherited. They are passed down from generation to generation, but yet, I think the message here is that Torah itself, it's about the struggle and toil. If something's important to you, you've got to work hard at it. And finally, all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. Or maybe we could put it differently. Be genuine. Be real. Be authentic. Three teachings. Three powerful lessons for us to learn and take away. And insights that we've heard tonight and seen and understood from the Dee and Shaw families. Love everyone. Work hard in life. And be genuine and authentic. Let us take these lessons that we have learned tonight. Let us hope and pray that the pain and suffering of all those that are going through this tragedy, and this tragedy has touched the entire world. Something we haven't seen, and maybe this will be, as you said, a merit for peace. May we see only happiness. May we only know good health. May our precious mourners live long, healthy and happy lives with many, many smachot. And we pray for the precious souls that they rest peacefully. Please God, there will always be a blessing for all of us. We conclude with the traditional words for mourners. May the Almighty give you comfort and strength through these difficult times. Among all the mourners of Zion and Yerushalayim, and may we only know peace and happiness. And as we started before this section, let us sing one more time. There is a powerful song, Ani Ma'amin. I believe with faith, and you've spoken about faith, and our faith and how important it is to us. So let's highlight that we believe in our traditions, we believe in, please God, one day we should all be reunited, all the precious souls and all our loved ones.